This is Dateline News and Conversation. This is part 3 tonight with my good friend Blaž Kavčič. In the first part, we examined what is multipolarity. We discussed what is Agenda 2030, who specifically are the globalists, and the 4 main dogmas of modern imperialism. We also discussed what is wrong with world governance. In part 2, we examined what is wrong with the gold-backed currency. What is the agenda of the globalist to marginalize the role of nations and how they do this with currency? The really crucial and pressing monetary question is the monetary sovereignty of national states. No sound national money, no sound solution for international trade and investment. Purchasing power should not be printed or electronically created, but created in real terms: work, productivity, resources. Tonight, Blaž and I are going to discuss the emergence of BRICS Plus. He is going to advise that BRICS Plus should develop a modern version of a multilateral clearing similar to what was functioning among Yugoslavia and the Soviet bloc countries decades ago. Blaž, welcome back to the show, and let's begin with this topic. What do
Hello,
you mean?
Regis. Thank you for having me. Thanks.
So what did you mean by that? That BRICS should develop a modern version of a multilateral clearing similar to what was functioning among Yugoslavia and the Soviet bloc during the decades past. What did you mean by that?
Okay, let me explain this concept. But first, if it's okay, Regis, let me give to our followers few connecting thoughts. At the beginning of this, as you said, our third concluding discussions on of the so-called sincerity series. Why sincerity? Again, let's remind our listeners, our viewers, because those in power are lying to us. And we are trying, you and I, in this show, to help people establish sincerity towards themselves and then find a way to demand it from those who are supposed to serve us as public servants. Our position is one of respect for all the people and appreciation of the tangible achievements of Russia and China benefiting their citizens. Global powers are using American empire to conduct a war against humanity, and we are hopeful that BRICS Plus countries will represent an alternative. And I would like to help people escape the trap, which we are seeing also in the best of alternative media today, which is United States bad, Russia good. This is no better than saying United States good, Russia bad. We have to be a little bit more systematic in dealing with these questions because we live in a very complex period of development of human society. So we remain hopeful but critical. Behind the fog of global violence and spectacle, the governments of the United States, Russia, China, and others are jointly implementing Agenda 2030. So we have Biden, Putin, Xi Jinping, hand in hand, implementing Agenda 2030. Agenda 2030, as we have explained during our previous discussion, is a destruction of humanistic, natural, normal, and pushing through synthetic, transhumanistic, digitized, and virtual. A recent Russian push with digital ruble is good concrete example. Now let me try to illustrate what we are trying to do here with one of the late American statesman, Samuel Adams, was a great personality in 18th century. He said then, "It does not take a majority to prevail, but rather an irate, tireless minority keen on setting bushfires of freedom in the minds of men." So I hope that you and I are trying to help igniting these bushfires. It doesn't look very positive if we analyze our people around us, I think. But we will keep on working on these bushfires, I think. So we are concretely trying to break the spell of deadly dogmas of imperial globalism. Why? Because a clear view on what is going on and what to do is only possible outside the dogmas imposed on us. If we remain with our ideas, thoughts, and activities within the fetters of the dogmas we have been discussing several times, we cannot come out with better solutions. I think it should not be so hard, but it is. So it seems in real life, even the top alternative thinkers seem to be avoiding the obvious. Let me illustrate this with some new events and information available to all of us. Let's have a short glimpse at recent UK elections and an article of Italian publicist Thomas Fazzi, who wrote about Russian strategy. So, United Kingdom and Russia. Are there any connections? New British Prime Minister is Keir Starmer, Labour Party. For decades, globalists had full control of all British parties, and change from Conservative to Labour will bring no change in domestic and international politics whatsoever. Even more of the same if we take a look at Starmer's priorities. Now, Labour, Starmer, what are they planning to do? First, alignment with the European Union, trying to re-enter European Union again, so to abolish Brexit. Second, migrant allocations from the European Union. So migrants, waves of millions are created with imperial wars in Africa and Asia, and European countries are supposed to automatically accept the allocations of migrants. Then Starmer plans return to full World Health Organization's health control, which actually means abolishing national constitutions of member states of European Union. Then digital ID. Then central bank digital currency and net zero on assets. So this is the policy of new British Prime Minister. Now, Thomas Fazzi has tried to enter Russian mind. He published an article where he tries to help understanding the contemporary Russian mindset and spirit through the work of Sergei Karaganov, one of the Russia's most influential geopolitical thinkers. And I'm quoting here Fazzi. He says that Sergei Karaganov is one of Russia's most influential geopolitical thinkers, a Russian Brzezinski or Kaplan, if you will. He heads the Council for Foreign and Defense Policy, Russia's leading foreign policy think tank, and is the Dean of the Faculty of World Economy and International Affairs at Moscow's Higher School of Economics. He's considered very close to Sergei Lavrov and even Putin himself. Until recently, he had close ties with Western foreign policy circles. In the 1990s and 2000s, he was a member of the Trilateral Commission and even served on the International Advisory Board of the Council on Foreign Relations. In 2019, he was interviewed by Time magazine. It shouldn't be controversial to suggest, and we should be paying very close attention to what someone like Karaganov is thinking and writing. This was quoting Thomas Fazzi. Now let me summarize some main challenges of the world today according to Karaganov in his documents. He says, number one, the depletion of modern form of capitalism, profit-oriented, consumeristic. Number two, increasing social inequality. Number three, the degradation of man and society. Number four, the virtualization of life. And number five, the intellectual decline of the Western elites. So, Karaganov depiction of problems is correct, valid, according to my opinion. But the question is, does he address the systemic causes behind these problems which he describes? He does not define the neoliberal economic doctrine as a problem, nor does he define Agenda 2030 as a wrong orientation. He does not even discuss the role of CO2, carbon dioxide. The basic question, is carbon dioxide a gas of life or main existential problem as a scam forced upon humanity by the globalists, the green agenda? And by the way, has any established Russian academic done that? To conclude, both Keir Starmer and Sergei Karaganov are members of Trilateral Commission, one of the most important and influential global bodies. This would confirm our fear that also Russia is well under the controlling influence of the global empire. Now, a few short answers on your concrete question regarding the multilateral clearing arrangement. So far, there is a comparative advantage of the Russian and Chinese monetary system against the United States, European Union, and others. Russian and Chinese systems are not yet so deeply financialized, which made it possible to overcome sanctions imposed on Russia better, increase the military production faster and more efficiently, and absorb a giant speculation bubble like Evergrande liquidation relatively smoothly. This would be a vast strategic strength within a SWOT analysis, but there is also a strategic weakness and threat. Russia and China are completely subordinated to Agenda 2030. World Bank has strong influence on all BRICS plus central banks. In monetary area, this could mean that BRICS plus will just leapfrog, will overjump the phase of classical money financialization and implement even deeper crypto financialization of their economies and societies. Let me clarify that national and international transactions of money have never been a real problem during many last decades. We do not need crypto, we do not need Bitcoin, blockchain, or CBDC to perform financial transactions. It is imposed artificial need, not something that would be helping smooth transactions. On the contrary, crypto is something that global parasites want to impose, to control, dictate, eliminate purchasing power of individuals, businesses, and states. Gamification of money, economy, and society is a modern plague. And the system I proposed from the past, because it was working efficiently, the multilateral clearing arrangement, would make it possible for all participating countries to trade in their own currencies. And of course, then we come to the real question, which is hidden behind this dogmatic statements. This is the purchasing power of individual national states. And there is a clear fact: if a national state is not in a position to create enough value, enough goods and services which are of interest for other countries, then we have a different problem, not a transactional problem, not a problem that any sort of currency or reserve currency could solve. We have a problem of quality of functioning of national economy. But we have to solve this problem in a different way. So I also am of the opinion that ideas like Bancor, once proposed by Keynes, are just another imperialistic trick. And I am strongly of the opinion that strong, independent national currencies should be the base, and that international transactions should be and could be implemented easily and smoothly within the modern multilateral clearing arrangement.
So, Blaž, help me understand. Today, we have the international currency being the dollar, which is what everything is being traded in. How do we get away from that? How does the dollar have to collapse? Are we seeing it collapse now with BRICS and other countries getting rid of the dollar, trading now in their own national currencies? How do we break free from this current system, to where there's a respect for the sovereignty of all nations based on their ability to produce goods and services for their people and other interested countries, as you mentioned? How do we do that?
Well, we certainly should not be victims of another false flag operation, because the dollar as such is not a problem. even in the system which operated, which I described, multilateral clearing with Soviet Union and a number of other countries, actually the calculative currency was so-called clearing dollar. So the name of the international currency, or which one is used, is secondary. What is important is the sovereignty of the central banks of national states. If the national states will not re-establish sovereignty of their central banks and their national currencies, which is to a large extent still present in Russia and even more in China, but should be re-established within European Union. If we remain victims, slaves of the privatized, globalized monetary system headed by Federal Reserve, then there is no reserve currency will help. Dollar up or dollar down is not so important. So the priority is to re-establish the monetary sovereignty of national states. And this is being obfuscated and hidden from the public. And I'm very disappointed with all top economists who are not speaking clearly on this matter. But all main economists are helping push the central bank digital currency, which is just a weapon to enslave the population of the world.
Okay, you mentioned digital currency. This is something that I don't completely understand, but I do know this. I want to have money in my wallet, paper, coins. I'm here in Russia. I want rubles. I do not like doing transactions with a debit card or credit card, whether it's at the grocery store, whether it's at a market or whatever. I prefer to use cash. I feel safe if I have cash in my hand. In terms of digital electronic currency, is it not true that I lose control of my assets, my money? That somebody sitting somewhere else can turn my money on or off or use it to control me? Is that not true? Can you explain that for me?
Well, it's clear. Yes, you are absolutely right, Regis. The purpose of cryptocurrencies is to have so-called programmable money, which means that a central power will be able to eliminate your purchasing power with a sleight of hand, just on a computer. This is the game. Crypto is not a currency. Crypto is a globalist weapon. So any digital transactions may be a good modern solution, but we have again and again to come back to what is the governing principle of the society. Is the monetary system serving the sovereign economy of a sovereign country, or is it controlled by the World Bank, which is becoming more and more the model? Now, even the connections with of Russian and Chinese central banks, in Indian, of course, with the World Banks are very strong. And there are financial elites in the background, global elites, which are working hand in hand, and it's nationality doesn't matter. They don't feel affiliation to their national states and their nations and their cultures. They think those international global financial elites thinks of in global terms of the global privileged caste. So yes, everything is correct what you said about the deficiency of digital money and advantages of having your money, your private money, under your control in physical form, on your bank account. But nothing helps at the end if the sovereignty of national states will not be reestablished, and the system of governance of national states will not be upgraded to a solution where national states will start serving better their people. And now it's not even something rare anymore. Many commentators are now coming out with the statement that it became clear that the national states are not serving their citizens, and then no form of money can help. But citizens insisting on classical forms of money is one of the partial forms of expressing our will and promoting positive solutions.
Okay, I have to ask you this question. Let's assume that a country X, is committed to serving the needs of its people, putting them first, is concerned about the sovereignty of their currency. Is it conceivable that digital could be a good thing in a country like that?
Digital transactions, yes. Cryptocurrency, no. Cryptocurrency is a scam. It is not the money. And we have to come back to the basic definitions of money. What is money and what is not money? Money is nothing else than a certificate on value, a confirmation that the citizens or a company, am entitled to certain part of the wealth created in a society, and this is the only form of money, and it should not be fetishized. And then it's secondary, is this money expressed in golden coins or in paper or in checks or in digital entry in my account? This is secondary. But we have to understand that cryptocurrencies are not money. They are just an obfuscation made a profitable speculative investment on purpose decades ago, just to hide the purpose which is now coming through also in Russia by brutally, intensively forcing in central bank digital currency. This is the ultimate goal of all bitcoins and all the forms of nice money and beautiful money and flower money and so on. Local money obfuscations and all sorts of tricks that were played and are being played all around the world. So we have to come back to the definition, and this is described in detail in my book, How We Will Survive and Thrive. What is money and what is not money? If we do not establish a correct modern social role of money, we are doomed. And to illustrate also your question, or to try to answer it additionally, of course, we see now what is happening to Viktor Orban. He does not have a comprehensive anti-globalist policy or vision, but he is rationally opposing some of the most stupid and counterproductive measures of European Union, and he did a very professional round of talks with the top politicians of Ukraine, of Russia, and of China, trying to help to establish peace. But he's being stigmatized, and European Union is trying to penalize his activities. So why am I explaining this? This is connected to the money question and the sovereignty question. Sovereignty of national states is a prerequisite for the condition which we are talking about, condition that national states are the organizational form, the only organizational form that can assure taking care of the people's citizens of any particular country. So it has to be reestablished, and the monetary sovereignty is one of the most important elements of national sovereignty.
Okay, you mentioned your book. I'm scrolling it now across the bottom of the screen. You have offered this book for free to anyone who will write to you. How We Will Survive and Thrive, Leaving Predatory Globalism for Sovereign Humanism. And here is your email. People can contact you. You will send them a PDF copy of your book. And I'm going to let that email scroll a bit more. People can also get a copy of your book if they contact me through my Substack channel, or if they use my Telegram channel. I'll let that scroll, because this is a very important book that Blaž and I have been analyzing for the last several months, in which he raises all of these important questions and topics we've been talking about tonight, in the previous two shows, and I've lost track of how many shows we've been doing, Blaž, but this is how people can get a copy of this book, How We Will Survive and Thrive, Leaving Predatory Globalism for Sovereign Humanism. Now, Blaž, I want to talk about this topic of sovereignty. President Putin, probably more than anybody else, when he talks about a new emerging multipolar world, almost the first thing that comes out of his mouth is the respect for the sovereignty and dignity of all nations. Now, Blaž, I'd like to think that he's sincere about this. I'd like to think that what he and others, and it's a very fast-growing group of other countries, Southern Hemisphere, Asia, they are really emphasizing the need to be respected as sovereign, independent states. How does this match up with this globalist agenda? Are they, and because you said there's still, all of them are connected to the World Bank, the central banks, most are all connected and run by the World Banks, the globalists. How does this appeal to sovereignty match up with the globalist agenda?
Now, there are some very positive things which we have repeatedly said regarding the governance of Russia and President Putin and his team, but we also remain critical because I don't know why nobody mentions what Putin said in his interview with Tucker Carlson. He said, "We are all bourgeois." This is what Putin said, and I agree with him. He also partially rehabilitated Yeltsin. And Russia today has a neoliberal political system where corruption is a problem, oligarchs are a problem, the big money controlling the political decision is a problem, which is being openly discussed also by political leadership of Russia. So the political system of Russia is the same as political system of United States. A parliamentary democracy, a presidential parliamentary democracy, but based on political parties. And political parties are corruption. So as long as political system of Russia does not evolve and overcome this problem, we can only speak about the relative advantages of Russia in comparison to United States or European Union. Although I would like to say again, I think that there is more democracy in Russia and China than in United States or European Union, because all the support of citizens is stronger. I also do not think that one should regard the Chinese political system as something so specific. They have Communist Party, but each country, each national states needs some sort of avant-garde, of a responsible elite, hoping that this is elite with positive values. And I think that a lot of values that Chinese elite or Russian elite are promoting are positive values. The problematic about both very important, most important countries of the world today who are taking the lead, the main problem with them is that they are too much in line with the political system established by the globalist power during last decades. So we are doomed. I'm sorry to say, Regis, as long as people do not organize themselves in national states, first for defense and then for liberation, we will be stepping forward. There will be no new wars, assassinations attempts, successful, unsuccessful. There will be always something, and the price is going down, and inflation, and terrorism, and Taiwan, and Kosovo, and they will always start some project which will help people forget about the priorities of life and to organize nationally. And my book is supposed to help national elites in each individual state to take this book and go through it and make maybe a better national program with analysis and vision. But I'm after roughly 2 years after I wrote this book, I'm still more and more convinced that the questions raised in these books are obligatory steps that have to be passed by any well-meaning expert who would like to help his nation survive. So, political system, health system, money, and CO2. These are roughly mentioning the four questions. Unless we understand correctly these categories, we address them, we cannot then position correctly the questions pushed on us through technology, religion, wars, inflation, culture, Hollywood. We simply cannot understand what's going on. That's why I think it's obligatory reading. It's not a long book. It's 100 pages about. And I would, of course, welcome some international cooperation in further development of this book, or helping national teams to adapt it to national needs, because it's only a draft of a political system which I propose, how to implement under the modern conditions the democratic system, which will solve the problems that have been caused by functioning political systems so far, mainly caused by this solution of political parties, which have shown their inability to help transfer demands of the people into political decisions.
Okay, here's the thought that's running through my mind. For decades now, maybe well over a century, the entire world has been governed by this system we're talking about of globalism. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I think that the global ideas are spread all over the place, and some of these ideas are also positive. Things are not black and white. If we speak about last 500 years, Jesuits have played a deciding role. Jesuits are present everywhere in the background, also in Zionism, also in Islam, also in Marxism. There is always a Jesuit philosophy in the background, well hidden. And there is a lot of dynamic in it. The problem is that this concept has become too extractivistic and too mechanistic. Also, in globalism today, all the ideas are instrumentalized, from Bible to Marx, to Sadhguru to Dalai Lama. All the concepts are instrumentalized in contemporary globalism, and we have to get away from this system, because it has corrupted now a system that has created the domination of Western culture centered in Europe, with Bible in one hand and sword in the other, and has played a very important role in conquering the world. But it has become too predatory. Too much is being wasted. The spirituality is being now sacrificed with this attempts of Vatican to ecumenistically bring all religions together and to put them on artificial intelligence and blockchains. This is preposterous. So things are dynamic, and I think that dynamism of the last 500 years, with resulting in very fast technological development and cultural development, has always also produced some negative results. But the system has become now too brutal, too devastating. Now, look, the military budgets are skyrocketing all over the world, and all the countries are now competing in who will invest more in weapons. This is absurd. This is against humanism. So this system, this culture, this philosophy has become extremely negative. And let's try to take out what is positive from the previous experience. And my proposal is let's seek solutions in a direction of humanism and democracy. And it's not simple. I have listened to a discussion recently from Sheldon Wallin from a few years ago, his lecture on how problematic the category of democracy is. Because he says if we try to implement Aristotle defines democracy as a system where those who work decide. But then Aristotle and Wallin explain that people who work do not have time for decision making. So this cannot work. And the solution which is offered by Wallin is that democracy should only be understood as a system for control, for opposition, which I don't agree with. So in certain, I'm basing my solutions on Wallin's political philosophy, but I try to avoid the traps where I think Wallin has shown that academics do not understand the real life as the people who work in business and in real life do. So we have to combine the academic knowledge and the practical knowledge to find a way out. But we are in existential threat, Regis. We can't hide it. People would like to see more romantic solutions, more mystical solutions, and I will save myself by thinking so and thinking otherwise. No, I think our souls, Regis, are connected to our bodies. And if our bodies are being tortured and poisoned, our souls are suffering too. So we have to find a way out.
I agree with you. And I'm wondering if in the transition, the evolution from one system that has been embedded in most of humanity for 500 years, as you mentioned, how difficult it must be to leave everything of that system, that world, immediately and move into this new ideal vision of BRICS based on the sovereignty of all nations, respect, fair trade, development for all, I think it's extremely difficult to transition out of one system evolved into another. I think it must be like a huge iceberg that is melting and taking with it water and rocks and ice over what's left of the terrain and changing this environment. So I think it's going to be very difficult, as you mentioned. Now, you mentioned the Jesuits. Now, I have heard this many times, but to be completely transparent, I was educated to be a Catholic priest in the Pontifical Gregorian University in Rome, Italy, the Vatican's university. All of our professors were Jesuits. All I learned was theology, scripture, moral theology. I never learned anything about the Jesuits being subversive. I certainly would not have in that environment. And I have to tell you, I've had many Jesuit priests who are friends, who are good guys, who are honest, who are really good Christians, Catholics. But I've also heard that the Society of Jesus, the Jesuits, have been the military wing of the Pope. And it was always understood that a Jesuit was never to become a pope. We called him maybe a black pope. And yet the current Pope, Francis, is a Jesuit. So before we finish tonight, and we didn't plan to talk about this, but what do you mean when you say that the Jesuits are everywhere and are advancing this agenda? And I've also come to believe that the Vatican is not what I or anybody else believed it really was, as a source of power and control in the world. Your thoughts on this, Blaž? Help me understand.
Well, I think that we should not understand this influential groups as one monolithic headquarters. How I understand these things is that the Jesuits have 500 years of continuity of thinking from Phoenicians, from black nobility, from then the Khazarians coming through, incorporating different Illuminati movement and Freemasonry and so on. There are hundreds of different networks and so on, but the philosophy and the continuity of the Vatican is the strongest. Also, the start of the European control of the world started with the Spanish and Portuguese empires in partnership with Vatican. So, and from that times on, there is continuity, and statelets and states and so on, empires have been emerging and collapsing from Portuguese, Spanish, Habsburg, Prussian, Russian, all sorts of empires were emerging and collapsing, but the Vatican was also a partner. A Vatican was partner with the Spanish in 17th century and was partner to Hitler and Mussolini, and Vatican was partner after the Second World War to American Empire. And all the main heads of the world, including Putin, they try to have good relations with the Vatican. So Vatican has, and the Jesuits are in the background of Vatican. They have the longest continuity. And the continuity is the power, because we the people, we are born, we work, we study, we know something, we gain something, and then we disappear. But these are the institutions which have continuity. And the continuity, as I explained, of the Vatican and Jesuits is the longest lasting continuity during the last 2000 years, and reinforced by this Jesuit organizations, starting some 500 years ago. So this is how I see things, and there are many books written on it, how Jesuits organize themselves globally, in China, in Europe, what were their role. There is a lot of documentation of collaboration of Jesuits with Soviet Union, establishing Soviet Union. Stalin was a Jesuit trained person, and then interaction of Jesuits and Jews and Zionists, which emerged in the 19th, 20th centuries. So these are the networks of power. They exist and they have continuity, and they are in the background of all these financial networks, BlackRock, Vanguard, who are the logistical tools of controlling the planet. and the intellectual power behind them is, I think, in Vatican. And I don't want to say it's all bad. Things were dynamic, and I know I also have some friends who have ties with Jesuits, and they also look at Jesuits as the most educated people, intellectuals, and so on. There is a lot of knowledge, but not all knowledge of today is being used against the natural life and against humanity at the top. This is the problem, and this is the existential threat, which is here for everybody to see. And let's open our eyes, our intellectual eyes. Is this are the powers of the world continuously destroying the world, destroying the lives, or not? What is going on in Palestine? What is going on in Ukraine? Is it necessary? What is a war? And understanding these categories, what is war, what is technology, what is religion, is not possible. I will repeat, maybe for the last time, if we remain intellectually chained within any of the four dogmas I write about in my book.
Yeah, I agree with you. And you mentioned something that is really important, the nexus of power. The Vatican is the oldest long-standing continuous organization in the world. I broke ranks with the Vatican, and I may be offending people, with the Catholic Church. Its use of power, fear, and guilt to control people. I've come to believe that all religions are power structures to control people, bar none. And I think when you have such power and you have such accumulated wealth, which the Vatican has and has had for all these years, all of the societies, secret societies, who are part of the web of this nexus of power, are using all kinds of tools to control who we are and how we live as humans. And as you and I have talked about, the greatest threat is not nuclear war. I would welcome that to end this disastrous human situation we're living in. The greatest threat is to dehumanize who we are as human beings, to take away and deny everything that makes us good, beautiful, wholesome, creative, and free. And I think you will agree that everything we see happening today, everything is designed to destroy what is left of our basic humanity. Your last thoughts, Blaž.
Well, I couldn't formulate it better than you did. I think we have to wrap up. I have prepared some thoughts to illustrate what we have been discussing in a little bit more economic and financial details. But I think with your concluding thoughts for this show, we have reached a point of definition which we can only offer to our viewers, and maybe some more technical professional questions we leave open for some other occasion.
Well, we are going to continue to talk about these things. As I have said many times, it isn't enough to mention these kind of things one time and assume people got the message. The whole secret to advertising and the big lie is to repeat it over and over and over again until more and more people begin to wake up and understand. Blaž, I can't thank you enough. I want to encourage people to write to you or me, preferably to you, for a copy of your book. One of the things that you have been trying to do is to attract other experts, professionals from different countries internationally who can share in a synergistic way what we're going through right now and what it's going to take to solve the problem. I would encourage anybody who's watching, who would like to be in touch with you, to find ways of joining together internationally to address really these humanity-threatening things, events that are happening to us. So, Blaž, thanks so much. Another terrific show. We'll look forward to doing it again really soon.
Thank you, Regis. All the best.